Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. Probably wondering what I was doing staring at the picture through a straw. Well, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. That's the picture we finished up last week, and we're excited today to start a new one. That's always a lot of fun. So we'll get the Mr. Turtle out of the way here and bring up a fresh new canvas. What we're going to do today is we're going to start, like I said, a new painting. And I've done a lot of different pictures over the past few years. And I paint the canvas to look like wood. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you first how we do that, where we make it look like wood. And then on top of that, then we'll paint a picture over the top of that wood look. So today's pretty much we're just going to be working on the background, just getting that that looking like it's wood. And how do you do that, you say? Well, it's really simple, and I'm going to, because this is going to get messy, I'm going to put on one glove because I'm going to be holding that, and I don't want to get my hands all painted up today. So what we're going to do is I'll go through what we've got for our palette. First of all, we've got some cad orange, we've got some black, some burnt umber, burnt sienna, and our titanium white. And I've got a big old brush, a big 2-inch brush, Home Depot special. And what we're going to do is to make this look like wood, it needs to go in stages. And so we're going to start out first of all with a lot of darks. So I'm going to do a mix of the burnt sienna and the burnt umber. And so I'll pull out some burnt umber out here and some burnt sienna. And we'll just start slapping it on. And that's the fun part of this, is just kind of slapping some paint down and see where it goes. And don't be afraid to put it on any way you want. You might want your wood to maybe be a little lighter or a little darker. I know this looks really dark to begin with, and it is, but I think you'll see as we start adding other colors to it that it's going to lighten up tremendously. I'm going to add just a little bit of paint thinner to it. It'll make it apply a little easier. And again, I'm just mixing up that burnt sienna and the burnt umber. And you can see here we're just slapping it on. And grab a bunch more. So if you don't see me when you go down there to the palette, if you don't always catch me, all I'm doing is just reloading my brush with the colors that we've talked about there. Biggest thing with the canvas, the last couple of pictures I've done on here have been with the hardboard, and it's not, you don't notice it as much with it as you do with the canvas. You've got the tooth that's the fabric of that canvas, and it just really important you fill up all of those little gaps in the fabric. So I needed a little more burnt sienna, so grab that and slap it on. Now this paint that I'm putting on is pretty thick, which is good, especially with this being the first of the colors we're going to put on, because kind of a rule of thumb, you can as you start painting, you'll see this, thinner paint will stick on to thick paint. So if it's real runny, you're going to have a hard time getting a thicker paint to stick on it. It's not going to want to do it. And so what I've done, I've you can see I've covered up the whole canvas, good solid coat over the whole thing. And again, it's just that combination of the burnt sienna and the burnt umber. So right now it's real dark, which is fine because we're going to start adding now the additional colors. And I want to warm it up a little bit, so I'm going to take and grab some of that orange, that cad orange, and I'm just taking and just doing some, if you notice, full runs up the full length of the canvas. Those are all the little wood grains that are going to be showing as we get farther into this. And we'll add just a little bit of the titanium white to that. And again, doing the same thing, just really lightly touching the canvas as I'm pulling it up. I mean, you can pull it down if you want to, and I might do a little bit of changing it up here a little farther across, but we'll just start with doing it like this. And if it's a little crooked or a little sway in it, that's fine, because you're going to have that in any piece of wood, because the grains are always going to be moving around. And so we'll bring this one down from the top. And as you can see, it's really quickly starting to take on the look of real wood. A lot of people, when they see my stuff, go, "Oh man, that must be hard to make it look like wood." Well, it's really not. As you can see, it's a really simple process. So we've added in now that cad orange with some titanium white, which is giving us a little bit more of the graining you can see in there. But I want to take it again a little farther. I want to lighten it up, and I want it to be a little more honey looking. So I'm going to take that titanium white, and I'm going to put it right over here in this burnt sienna that I had. A little more. And again, we're just going to repeat what we've already been doing. Really lightly coming down. As you can see, there's areas that are lighter and darker, and you're going to have that exact same thing when you're looking at a piece of wood. And go right back up. One more stripe coming up there. Yeah, that looks good. Today is kind of a show about perspective, and we're changing up the perspective of what we normally would have with a canvas. Normally you'd just start with a white canvas. We're changing it up, making it a little different than what we're maybe normally used to, but it gives it a cool look. The whole point of the show is about, again, that perspective, and sometimes it's thinking outside of the box that really makes life kind of fun. And so that's the reason why I wanted to do this, because I think a lot of you would be interested in knowing how to do it. Now, we've got, like I said, that titanium white that's mixed in with the burnt sienna, and I'm going to add in now some very, very light black strokes coming down as well. And then we're going to work on some knots here in a little bit. The thinking outside of the box is kind of a cool thing. A lot of you that have lived in Salem for a long time and follow sports have probably heard, you can see really lightly, just picking up, letting the canvas pull what it wants for the paint off of it. Those that have lived in Salem for a long time and follow sports have probably heard of an athlete called Lindsay Michaels, and she was a runner that graduated from out at Cascade High School, which is where I used to coach, and I had the opportunity of coaching Lindsay for a number of years. In fact, the year that she won the state cross-country championships, I was coaching her. And I was watching films of her, or photos. Her dad used to take lots of pictures of her races. And I noticed that she was having, at the end of the race, she was having a hard time where her hands were all tightened up in her shoulders and arms. And so I started looking at all those pictures. And I'll get back to that story in a second. But as you can see, those really light strokes there of the black really made a big difference. What I want to do now is just make a couple, maybe of like their boards where it's separated out. And I'm going to do that with straight black. Anyway, back to Lindsay. I was looking at the videos of her or the pictures, and I noticed that her fists, when she was running, when she was getting, she was taking and putting her thumb in, which sounds really kind of weird, but holding it out like that is the way you want to do it. And so I was like, what can I do to have her stop doing that? Because that's what's making all of her muscles tighten up in her shoulders. And so I got a brilliant idea one day, and on the way to practice, I picked up a dozen eggs for practice. And so we took off for doing the workout on the track that day. And as you can see, I'm just got straight black, and I'm just going to make a couple of long lines down indicating where the boards might be. And I had her do her workout carrying those eggs, because she would have to keep her hands light in order to keep from crushing the eggs. Well, she crushed the whole dozen eggs over the course of the practice, but after that, she stopped doing that. And sometimes in the races, if I saw her starting to tighten up, I would yell out "Eggo," which was just her little cue that I was watching, that's what she was doing. And I think that, sometimes you have to look outside of the box at what you're doing. Do something maybe unconventional just to get to where you want to go. And just because everyone else does it a certain way doesn't mean that that's necessarily the best way for you. So don't be afraid to think outside of the box. Try something a little different in your life, and that might be a big help to you to get to where you want to go. So, how did you get off on running all that time? As you can see, I separated out where there's some board indicating boards now that broke up our wood. And I want to take now, while I've got the black on the brush, I want to take and just put in a few little indications of maybe where some knots might be. So we'll just grab a couple of random spots here, and maybe we've got a knot that's right about here. And I'm just blocking in basically just a little bit of an indication of where a knot would be. And maybe we'll slap another one up here, a littler one. Grab a little more paint. There we go. Maybe with just a few little pot marks. Maybe it's along here. Maybe some little worm holes that might be there. You notice it's not really drastic. It's just, they just add a little bit more character to the wood itself. And I'm not taking a whole lot of care about how I'm placing the paint on. I'm just trying to make sure that the placement is appropriate to what we're trying to do here. And remember, in the middle here, we're going to be painting a picture on this. So I don't need to put anything here in the center, because once this is dried and we start next week on the painting of the actual scene, this will be dry and it'll all be covered up there, so I'm not worried about it a whole lot. Yeah, that's good right there. I think we'll leave it at that. Now, I'd like to take, like where these knots are, I'd like to kind of just bring in some titanium white just to help make it a little more of a highlight. And we're going to do the same thing with hitting just a few spots along these cracks where the light might be hitting the wood there. So I'm gonna clean that brush out really quickly, and we'll just go into some straight titanium white. As soon as it hits the surface, obviously, it's going to be mixing with the blacks that we've already got on there. So I think you'll see here in a minute what I'm talking about. Even though it's titanium white, it's still going to be picking up a lot of the colors that are already on the canvas. So as I come down here, I'm just hitting a few little spots, not being real specific with it, but just trying to highlight or indicate where the light might be hitting on there. There we go. That looks better. Maybe just a little bit more on there. And then maybe right on the edge a little bit. And we'll do the same one on this one up here. Maybe we'll follow that on up a little bit, bringing that up. Yeah, that's looking good. Now I want to take, and where these boards are separated here, I want to take and just a few little spots, just take and highlight those just a little bit where the light might be hitting right on the edge of one of the pieces of wood. And so, pick a side, where maybe you want it where the light's coming in this direction. So if that's the case, then you'd want to go on the inside of the line here. Or if the light source is coming from the left, exact same thing. Again, that's one of those things that's up to you on how you want to do that and where you want to put those. I think for our sake, what we're going to do is we're just going to go on the right side of it here. And really, I'm just barely touching the surface. I'm basically letting the canvas determine where it wants to yank off a chunk of paint. And I could take and make this, really a solid line and very, very specific, but I don't really want that. This painting is not about the background, it's about the actual picture we're going to be doing, which is going to be a mountain scene, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So again, we're just going to keep going down each of these boards and just barely touching, indicating where that light might be hitting. I sometimes think that the canvas almost tells you what it wants painted on it. I was in my studio last night working quite late, and it was one of those things that it did not matter what I did, it just did not want to go the way I wanted it, and that's fine. It ended up, it was kind of frustrating because I couldn't get the effect that I was wanting, but I actually liked how it turned out a whole lot better than what I had originally thought, and so I think that a lot of times, they're your creations, but I think that a lot of times when you're being creative, it just is a way that sometimes nature is just going to direct you as to what direction you should go. And actually, I can't remember which sculptor it was, but I heard a sculptor that talked about that the image is inside of the rock. It just takes somebody to chisel it away, and I think that actually could be applied to the painting as well. All right, so we've got a pretty good start on our painting here, and we've separated out those boards, kind of highlighted. I'm really thinking though that I need to have one more knot kind of up here just to make this look like it's just it's had a bad life. So we'll add some more black on here, and we're just gonna, maybe we'll pull it big old, like there's a gap in the wood almost from up above. It's coming down, and that's the fun part of this whole process for me is just kind of just letting go. Yeah, I have kind of a general outline of what I want to do when I start, but sometimes as I'm going, something will happen, and I'll go, wow, man, I like that, and that's the fun of it. If it's you're so rigid that you have to have it almost like paint by number, I think you lose a lot of that freedom and the creativity that goes along with it. And things will develop as you're doing a picture. And again, I'm just coming back now with that white and hitting a little bit for highlight across there, and maybe a little bit through the outside. That looks pretty good. I want a little more, I think, in there. A little more of that white. Yeah, it's getting there. The nice thing that I think too, when I'm painting, is the fact that, oh, that looks good. I like that. I'm gonna follow that little, where it kind of ties those two knots together. What I started to say is, I think it's really kind of neat to just be free to let it happen, rather than being very structured. I know that when I've taught classes, people will they'll be all up there just with every little stroke trying to make sure it's perfect. It's, if you notice, a lot of times, if I'm doing detail work, yeah, I'll be up close to the actual end of the brush, but a lot of times I'm way back here at the end, and I think what it does is that it allows you more freedom. And I sit down when I do a lot of detail work, but most of the time I work standing up, just because I think it makes for it allows you a little more freedom to move, and your arms aren't bound up as much. And this is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be relaxing and not something that is a chore. And so, let yourself go and express yourself with that. I think where I've done these like little indications maybe of an indentation or something, I want just very, very lightly a little bit of maybe where the light might be catching off of those as well. I was talking about the perspective and changing your perspective on things, and hopefully by you watching this show, maybe I can help change your perspective on your life. We all have our struggles, and that's part of being a human being. As I'm just pulling up just a few little white lines up at just maybe the surface is just catching a little glint off of one of the rings of wood there. It's so easy to get into our daily routine of life, and we get stuck, and that's okay, as long as you recognize it and you can work yourself out of it. If you notice, when I started the show, I was sitting there looking at that turtle painting through the straw. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave it at that for this week. Next week it'll be dry, and then we can actually start our actual painting of our little mountain forest scene. But like I said, I started with that, looking through the straw. And the reason why I did that is for one reason. I think a lot of times in life, we look through life almost through a straw. When I had the straw up and I was looking at that turtle, I was looking at it and I could see a color and maybe a brush stroke, but I couldn't tell what that was. I couldn't tell it was a turtle. If I step back a little farther from the canvas with the straw, I could see a little bit more. Maybe I could see the head of the turtle. If I move back farther, I could see more of the picture. The farther that you step back from your situation in life, you're going to see more of the bigger picture. If you could have taken a straw long enough, you could have seen that, yes, I was looking at a turtle, but the turtle was in a frame, it was on an easel, it was in a studio, it was in CCTV, it was in Salem, Oregon. The farther you can step back from something, you can get a different perspective on your situation. And I think oftentimes, I know for myself, and I know there's a lot of you that are in the same way, I need that reminder, because oftentimes I'm going through life looking through that little straw, and I'm only seeing the little picture. God's got a big, big picture. He has got everything under control. He sees it all and is wanting us to step back so that we can see a bigger picture of the reality of our world. And I think that if you will do that, I know it does for me, it helps give me a different perspective. So as you go forward this week, take a step back in your life, maybe take a minute and just stop, kind of reevaluate, and look at where you're at and go, what can I do to change that? Maybe think out of the box. Carry around some eggs all day at work. Sure you'll get some looks for that. But think outside of the box. And I think that if you do that, it's going to help your artwork, definitely, because it gives you a different perspective, a different way of looking at things. But I think it's going to help you out in your everyday life. So until next week, I thank you for joining me. I hope you're telling your friends about me. I've got all the information at the end of the show about how to contact me if you've got a question on something. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, be inspired and paint something. Thank you. Have a great day.